Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The United Nations is warning countries around the world are falling far short of their pledges to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, putting the world on course for catastrophic global heating. An assessment by the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change released on Wednesday found pledges by countries to slash emissions nearly in half by 2030 are far below that goal, with the world on track to see emissions rise by more than 10% this decade. Without a change in course, the UN warns the planet's on track to see an average temperature rise of up to 2.9 degrees Celsius, of more than 5 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres spoke with the BBC Wednesday, less than 2 weeks before the COP27 UN Climate Summit opens in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt.
Climate change is the crisis of our lifetime, is the defining issue of today's world. So climate change remains a central priority in everything we do. If we are not able to reverse the present trend that is leading to a catastrophe in the world, we will be doomed.
Democracy Now! Will be in Sharm el-Sheikh, broadcasting live from the UN Climate Summit. The UN also issued a warning Wednesday over the 3 greenhouse gases that contribute most to global heating. Atmospheric levels of carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide all hit record levels this year. Methane saw its biggest year-over-year increase. Meanwhile, a new report in the British medical journal Lancet finds efforts to mitigate climate change can still deliver a future where people can not only survive but thrive. The report's lead author, Dr. Marina Romanello, said in a statement, quote, "There is clear evidence that immediate action could still save the lives of millions with a rapid shift to clean energy and energy efficiency." The Nigerian Medical Association is raising alarm about the spread of waterborne diseases in Nigeria after historic flooding killed over 600 people and left over 200,000 homes partially or completely destroyed. Aid groups say the flooding has led to a major increase in cholera cases and other preventable diseases like diarrhea and typhoid fever. Survivors are growing increasingly angry over Nigerian authorities' response to the flooding, which has displaced about 1.5 million people.
My house is flooded. My community is flooded. People are suffering. No drinking water. No light. In fact, it's a terrible situation.
Ukraine's government says it's discovered the bodies of nearly 1,000 civilians and soldiers buried in territories recaptured from Russia by a Ukrainian counteroffensive. About half the bodies were discovered in a mass grave in Izium in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region. Overnight, Russia's military carried out fresh attacks on power plants, this time in central Ukraine. In southern Ukraine, officials in the Russian-occupied Kherson region say more than 70,000 people have evacuated their homes ahead of a looming battle for control over Kherson City. Meanwhile, Ukraine has deployed more of its forces near its border with Belarus, a key Russian ally. In Iran, a mass shooting at a Shia shrine in the southern city of Shiraz killed 15 people, injured another 40 on Wednesday. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack. This is a survivor of the massacre.
They chased me, and I was shot in the back, and 3 people died next to me. When they attacked and started shooting, I laid down on the floor, and they thought I was dead. They killed 3 people near me, but I managed to escape with my life.
The deadly attack came as massive protests rocked Tehran and other parts of Iran as people marked 40 days since the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in police custody. Also Wednesday, the Biden administration imposed sanctions on 14 Iranian officials over the regime's brutal suppression of protests. In Georgia, another woman has come forward to claim anti-abortion. Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker pressured her into having an abortion. The unidentified woman said it happened in the 90s when they were dating and that Walker drove her to a clinic to have the procedure. On Wednesday, lawyer Gloria Allred spoke to press about her client's allegations and played audio tape of the woman.
Herschel Walker is a hypocrite, and he is not fit to be a U.S. Senator. We don't need people in the U.S. Senate who profess one thing and do another. Herschel Walker says he is against women having abortions. but he pressured me to have one.
This comes as Georgians have turned out in record numbers for early voting. Nearly 60% more voters have already cast ballots, and at this point in 2018's midterms, data also show a higher proportion of black and older voters. In Pennsylvania, Democratic Representative Mike Doyle announced Wednesday he's retiring from Congress, a year after he first revealed he would not seek re-election. Congressmember Doyle told reporters, quote, "I feel an obligation to make sure that people understand that my term expires at the end of the year, that I am not seeking re-election, but there is someone that has the same name as me on the ballot," unquote. He's referring to Republican Mike Doyle, a city councilor in a Pittsburgh suburb who's seeking to replace Congressmember Mike Doyle. He's denied he's seeking to deceive voters into voting for him based on name recognition, though his campaign literature makes few references to his party affiliation. He faces Democratic nominee Summer Lee, a Pennsylvania state representative who has the backing of the Democratic Socialists of America and progressives, including Senator Bernie Sanders and Congressmember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. In Arizona, police are investigating a burglary at the Phoenix campaign headquarters of Democratic gubernatorial candidate Katie Hobbs. No suspects have been identified, but Hobbs' campaign has released images from a surveillance video showing an unauthorized person entering the building overnight on Monday. Hobbs currently serves as Arizona's Secretary of State. As of Monday, she'd reported a half-dozen voter intimidation complaints near ballot drop boxes to police, including armed people wearing masks and tactical gear. Hobbs has reportedly received hundreds of death threats and threats of violence over the course of her campaign. Tune into Democracy Now! On November 8th for a 3-hour election night special. We'll be broadcasting live starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. A judge has ordered former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows to testify before the Georgia grand jury investigating Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. Meadows is believed to have set up and taken part in the Trump phone call on January 2nd, 2021, in which Trump pressured Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to find nearly 12,000 votes that would make Trump win the state over Joe Biden. A jury in Michigan convicted 3 men of providing material support for a terrorist act and other charges in the plot to kidnap Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2020. Prosecutors say the men belonged to the militia group Wolverine Watchmen. Paul Beller, Joseph Morrison, and Pete Musico will be sentenced in December. In Ohio, right-wing conspiracy theorists Jacob Wall and Jack Berkman pleaded guilty this week to placing thousands of robocalls spreading misinformation about voting in the lead-up to the 2020 elections. The calls targeted Democratic and voters of color in Cleveland, falsely claiming election officials would use vote-by-mail information to arrest or collect overdue debts from voters, and that the CDC would use their personal information in a mandatory vaccination program. The robocalls also went out to voters in Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, and New York. Elon Musk is nearing a deal to purchase Twitter for $44 billion. This week, Twitter employees circulated an open letter protesting reports Musk is planning to slash the company's workforce by 75%. Musk reportedly denied the reports Wednesday during a meeting with employees at Twitter's headquarters in San Francisco. Earlier this year, he suggested he'll allow Donald Trump to reactivate his Twitter account, which the company suspended after the January 6th insurrection. In Pennsylvania, lawyers for political prisoner Mumia Abu Jamal have asked a judge for a new trial based on new evidence that casts doubt on his 1982 conviction for the murder of police officer Daniel Faulkner. Lawyers for the former Black Panther and journalist said evidence and boxes discovered in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office showed his trial was tainted by racist jury selection and that one of 2 key witnesses sent prosecutors requests for, quote, the money owed to me. The judge said she intends to dismiss the request and set a new hearing in December. Faulkner's widow, Maureen Faulkner, was at the hearing. She also attended Monday's debate between candidates for Pennsylvania's open Senate seat, where Republican Mehmet Oz mentioned her by name. And in Haiti, well-known investigative journalist Robertson Alphonse is hospitalized in stable condition after being attacked by gunmen Tuesday in Port-au-Prince. Alphonse works at the daily newspaper Le Noveliste and the radio station Magic 9. Also on Tuesday, a journalist who had gone missing was found dead. Gary Tess previously hosted a political talk show in the southern city of Les Cayes. The Inter-American Press Association said this year has been one of the deadliest on record for members of the press. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Nermeen Sheikh. Hi, Nermeen.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.